It's time now for County-Wide, a presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. You'll hear about the interesting issues and happenings that affect all our lives. Here's today's County-Wide.
Welcome to the program. It is County-Wide. I'm Brad Miller, and I'm happy to welcome into the studio today someone who's doing something very, very interesting from right here in our community. From Prescott, Clayton Kuhles is with us, and Clayton is with MIA Recoveries, a terrific website at miarecoveries.org. Some of you may have seen some recent television profiles. Some of the Phoenix news channels, Clay, have talked to you in recent months and weeks about what you do, and that is something born out of a very passionate hobby of yours, started accidentally, and now you are helping folks, families, loved ones of World War II veterans who have been lost and who have gone MIA, and you're helping them get some closure to that.
Yes, that's correct. But I do searches all the way through the 1960s.
Okay.
And I've done a successful search in Chile for an aircraft that went down in 1969, and I've done searches up in the Yukon Territory. So pretty much wherever American air crews went down.
Okay, gotcha. It started, though, with the recovery of wreckage from a World War II plane. But let's go back a little bit more to the beginning. Now, you've shared a little bit with me, but you're a mountain climber.
That's correct.
Have done that just as a boyhood passion, it sounds like.
That's correct, yes.
Okay. And on one of these climbs in the Himalayas, which a lot of us would not connect to a World War II battle site or battlefield, one of those climbs was in the eastern Himalayas, where you learned of wreckage of what turned out to be an American service cargo plane.
That is correct.
Tell me how that all happened.
Well, in 2002, I went to northern Burma to climb a mountain called KVRD. It's on the Burma-Tibet border at 19,300 foot altitude. It is the highest peak in all of Southeast Asia. So I went to Burma just to climb this mountain. It took 2 weeks to reach the base of the mountain from the nearest road.
Wow.
And it took a couple more weeks to actually climb the mountain, summit it. But one day while I was down at the base camp, getting some fresh supplies and a couple of days rest, I witnessed some of my Kachin porters engage in a very animated conversation. And my interpreter was listening intensely. And he came over and said, "Clay, they're talking about something that might be of interest to you." And I said, "Well, what might that be?" He said, "Well, they're talking about another tribesman of the Kachin tribal group who had found an old airplane wreck years ago while out hunting. And they're just talking about this discovery." So I said, "Airplane? What airplane? This is so remote." Mm-hmm. During the weeks that I'd been there, I had never once seen or heard an aircraft overhead. So obviously it was not on a commercial flight path. So I questioned these tribesmen through my interpreter, and I learned the name of the village and the individual who had supposedly come across this crash years ago. And then when I finished climbing KVRD, I traveled to this man's village, which was about 30 miles southwest of my position on KVRD. And I met the man, and I was able to cajole him into going back up to the site. He did not want to go because he says it's a very difficult, very dangerous climb. Okay. But I was able to talk him into it. And I said, "Here, I am an American. I've come all these thousands of miles. You're not going to tell me no, are you?"
Well, I was going to say, it's dangerous for him. He knows the territory, but your determination, it sounds like, drove this mission to happen.
You have to kind of appeal to his manhood and make it sound like, here, I'm not near as tough as you are, but why don't you please take me there?
Flattery will get you somewhere sometimes.
Sometimes it will. You're absolutely correct. So he rounded up some villagers to help carry the loads, and it was a multi-day trip, very, very rugged, going through rivers and jungle. There was no trails whatsoever, and eventually we came out on a mountain ridge, and here, in fact, was the remains of a World War II C-47. A C-47 is a military cargo variant of a DC-3.
Okay.
I think everyone's heard of a DC-3.
If you watch any newsreel, they'll
correct.
be familiar as a paratrooper, I think.
That's correct.
And cargo.
That's correct. The C always stands for cargo. So it's a C-47, which means a cargo, but It's basically a DC-3 converted for cargo. I was able to pry loose some ID plates from the wreckage, and I took those down to the U.S. Embassy in Rangoon, Burma, and I was able to get in to see this crusty Marine Corps colonel who was our defense attaché. and his assistant, who was an Air Force major. And I was able to get in and have a sit-down meeting with them, and they examined the ID plates, and they said, well, Clayton, you've just found one of the aircraft that disappeared on the hump. And I said, the hump? I never even heard of the hump. Uh-huh. So then they educated me about this massive airlift. It was the largest and most prolonged airlift in human history, far greater in size and duration than the Berlin airlift right after World War II during the Cold War.
Wow.
But anyway, over 600 aircraft went down on this route, which went from the Assam Valley in northeastern India across northern Burma and into southwestern China. It was called the hump because it went over the Himalayas. The Himalayas traditionally, they start in the west, and then as they progress to the east, they dive south, right over Burma. They dive south. So the mountains on the far eastern end are actually running north and south instead of east and west.
So these cargo planes got to go up
and over.
And over.
And that's why it's called the hump.
And a dangerous pattern with just that topography, but then weather,
right,
all these other things.
As I became more educated about the hump, it was determined that most of the aircraft were brought down by severe icing and severe turbulence.
Sure.
And these environmental factors were brought about by the warm, moist winds coming off the Bay of Bengal, which comes out of the southwest, just like they do here in Arizona typically.
Okay.
And as those warm, moist winds go up over these north-south trending mountain ranges, which is the eastern end of the Himalayas, it creates severe icing and turbulence. And that brought down these aircraft. It was not enemy aircraft. It was
Gotcha.
Weather conditions, environmental factors.
Some of our World War II scholars in the audience will know that hundreds of planes were lost this way during this time period, this mission.
That's correct. They have records of slightly over 600 aircraft that went down and well over 2,000 personnel. I believe it's way more than that, but they have records of over 2,000 personnel. Most were crew members, but there were some passengers on these aircraft as well.
Okay.
So over 600 aircraft.
Now let's bounce back. Certainly given the time, given the environmental conditions, given scavenging, given animal presence, not to be gruesome, but any remains that you find are going to be what, at best, skeletal and sometimes perhaps not much at all?
Well, even the slightest bone fragment
You bet.
can be brought down and tested for DNA.
Right.
And the U.S. government has an agency that specializes in collecting DNA samples from the World War II generation, and these samples are kept in storage. So when new remains are brought down for testing, they're matched up to existing samples they have.
Okay.
And if I can identify the aircraft, which is of key importance, then it helps narrow that search. They can contact those families and get fresh DNA samples to match up with the remains that I bring down.
They'll have a record clearly of who was on that
That's
flight.
correct. The records are all readily available online. I can pull up any record within minutes of these aircraft.
So all these puzzle pieces, tell me what it was like to kind of find that wreckage. And I mean, the guy had seen it, you believed him, you trusted him, he seemed to know where he was going, but there had to be a moment when you walked up, realized indeed it was the wreckage of an aircraft, likely an American military plane from decades ago. And these people were resting there. How did that hit you?
It was an incredibly powerful emotional experience for me because I know that I'm the first American, the first Westerner to set foot at that site since that plane disappeared in the 1940s.
Yeah.
Maybe only a handful of tribesmen have visited that location looking for herbs that they use for medicinal purposes, but I'm positive I'm the first American to have set foot there. And so I know it sounds corny, but I feel like I can sense the spirits of the men saying, Clayton, look here, look there, flip over that piece of metal. I really can feel the spirits of our American personnel at that site.
Yeah. Wow.
And that happens at every site I'm at.
I don't doubt it for a moment. This is an extraordinary tale, and we've got plenty more to talk about. And I should tell our listeners, we're doing actually two parts with Clayton. Some of the stories, as the one you just heard, are continuing, and something extraordinary is still to come along this same line. And we'll visit that primarily in our second of two programs. Clayton Kuhles, MIARecoveries.org, if you'd like to take a look at the website. As we're chatting, there's all kinds of video record and different kinds of things there. And, of course, you can donate and make some of these pending discoveries a reality for the families of military personnel missing in World War II and other conflicts around the globe. Our guest today is Clayton Kuhles. We'll be back to Countywide right after this.
Life changes, then it changes again. Predicting the unexpected in life is impossible. That's why it's called unexpected. So when it comes to financial goals, our philosophy is don't predict, prepare. Hi, I'm Edward Jones financial advisor Matthias Sandoval. A job loss, change in health, or a loss of a loved one can have a big impact on your family's financial security. Let's work together to help make sure you're equipped for life's unexpected events. Call our office to schedule a face-to-face appointment.
Edward Jones, making sense of investing. Member SIPC.
Verde Solaire, your hometown heating, air conditioning, and plumbing company in the Verde Valley, and your trusted North Central Arizona Goodman dealer. Goodman is a name you can trust with the revolutionary Comfort Bridge technology factory installed into select Goodman gas furnaces and air handlers to ensure the entire system operates at peak energy efficient performance. Verde Solaire offers free in-home estimates, locally owned and operated since 1983. Visit them at verdesolaire.com. Better, cleaner, faster.
Hi, this is Louis Rice with Rice Accounting, Jackson Hewitt Tax Service, with a very sincere thank you for your continued business over the last 20 years. All of us at Jackson Hewitt Tax Service are very honored for the many community awards we've been given over the years. As always, we are open year-round, providing services for taxes, payroll, and bookkeeping. Jackson Hewitt Tax Service, located throughout northern Arizona, can help you with all your tax and accounting needs. For our nearest location, call 800-234-1040.
Let's talk. That's the message from Jonna Randall Murdoch, your local Farm Bureau agent, providing a personal touch when making insurance and financial decisions. Jonna will simplify your insurance needs while offering competitive pricing. Let's talk auto, home, life, and farm. Call Jonna at Farm Bureau today at 928-649-8686. Your Cottonwood Farm Bureau property and casualty insurance company. At Farm Bureau, they insure more than just farms.
Welcome back to the program. I'm Brad Miller. It is Countywide. And again, Clayton Kuhles is with us. And the website, MIA Recoveries, Inc., is where is Clayton's organization, his business. It's a nonprofit organization. MIARecoveries.org is the website. You might follow along as we chat and learn more about this extraordinary endeavor. Let's bounce back yet again, if we can, to that first discovery. Were remains collected or identified? Were you able to put names to some of the folks that were on that plane?
Well, this was such an eye-opening experience for me to come across this obvious American military wreckage that I was primarily concerned in getting documentation to identify it by serial number, oftentimes called the wing number or the nose number.
Now, how did you know where to find those?
The wreckage was in a fairly small, congested area between two rock spires way up on this ridge. And the ridge was literally on the border between India and Tibet.
Okay.
So it was way above timberline. It was just a barren, rocky slope. I did not think of excavating the site. I never thought about that. But to recover remains, you typically need to spend a few days, maybe even a few weeks on site.
Sure.
I was primarily interested in identifying the aircraft, and I found the ID plates. I took them down to the embassy. And would you believe it? I didn't even have a GPS receiver with me. So I went down to the embassy. I showed them the plates, and they asked for the GPS coordinates, and I had to tell them, well, guys, I didn't have a GPS receiver. It's Clayton, you've got to go back. And I said, man, I'm depleted right now. I need to go back home, and I'll come back next year. Oh yeah, Clayton, you need to go back there. We need accurate GPS numbers. We need to know exactly where it's at and how to get there. So the following fall, I came back, and I returned to that same village, and I met the man who had led me to the site in 2002. And through an interpreter, he said, well, Clayton, I know of another site across the border in India. Why don't we go across over there first, and then we'll circle back around and we'll revisit the site we went to in 2002.
So a real excursion.
Right. And my guide who was with me freaked out. He said, well, Clay, if we get caught on that border, going through that border, we could be jailed. This is an illegal border crossing. And I said, well, it's so remote. We're not going to find anyone up there. He said, well, every now and then, the Indian Army might have a patrol. But I shamed him into going with me. You play on his manhood. And so he reluctantly joined me, but he was very nervous about being caught. So we went across the border, this time to the west. We crossed over these remote mountain chains. We dropped down into India. And sure enough, we came to the wreckage of a 4-engine aircraft. And there were human remains laying all over the ground surface. This is way above timberline. Above timberline, there are no large predators.
Okay.
You might have some birds, but the remains are generally in the same location they were when the plane crashed. There were the remains of their leather flight jackets, boots, gloves, and lots of human bones. So I took my sleeping bag out of its nylon stuff sack. I completely filled it full of human remains. Another stuff sack I completely filled full of artifacts like the remains of jackets, personal items.
Sure.
We came back across into Burma. We revisited the site that I went to in 2002. I got a GPS fix. And those remains were seized by the Burmese military intelligence as I was trying to board a flight. I thought they were going to jail me, but they eyed me, made me wait while they boarded the plane. I was held back. They went through all my gear. They extracted all the remains and personal artifacts I recovered. They let me board. And when I got to the U.S. Embassy, I told them about it. And they said, yeah, we know all about it. And I said, well, what about the remains? And they said, don't worry, the Burmese military intelligence, they'll contact us within a few days, and they'll turn that over.
Good.
They're trying to establish relations with us. And I said, wow, that's a relief. So sure enough, a few days later, the Burmese military delivered all those items that I had recovered from the crash site, and they delivered that to the U.S. Embassy, who then transferred it to our DNA lab at Pearl Harbor, and the remains from that aircraft were identified. There were 5 men aboard that aircraft. It's a C-87, which is a cargo variant of a B-24.
Okay.
There were 5 crew members aboard, and they were able to positively identify 3 of the crewmen through the remains that I carried out.
Wow.
So that created quite a bit of publicity, and I was invited to attend the burial ceremony for one of the airmen that was in Petaluma, California. And after meeting the family and their chaplain, they asked me to deliver the eulogy. So I said, well, I've never given a eulogy in my life, and I'm not related to the man. What would you like me to say? And they said, we want you to tell us exactly how you found him. His name was Mervyn Sims, Private Mervyn E. Sims. So I said, okay, it's a mountaineering story, and if that's what you want to hear, I'll tell you the story.
Yeah.
So there were cameras from about 4 TV stations. They were out of San Francisco, Los Angeles, all kinds of reporters there, huge press coverage. So I stood up in front of the crowd, and I told them exactly how I found the site and how the remains came out. And I met 2 elderly ladies there, all dolled up, who knew this man back in the 1930s, and they dated him. His family owned a big chicken ranch up in Petaluma, which I guess was famous as the chicken capital of the world. And his family owned one of these chicken ranches, and they loved dating him because he was one of the few boys in town who had money who could take him for a malt and a hamburger.
At that time,
it was so cute meeting these 2 elderly ladies, and they were just spellbound by the story of how the remains were found. Because there was never any follow-up from the government. With the war raging, no one ever went back to look for these men.
Right.
And so the family never knew. They had no idea.
Right. It's both heartbreaking and uplifting to think, that those remains laid there for all of my life.
Mm-hmm.
From the day I was born, I went to school, and most of us are going to be able to say that. All of us born after World War II, in this case, everything we've ever done in our lives, good, bad, indifferent, those remains laid there, unnoticed,
they
unclaimed.
laid there on the bare ground, way above timberline,
Right.
just out there, fully exposed to the weather and everything, and no one ever came to look for them.
And you've brought them back.
I brought them back.
That's just it's an incredible thing.
There's nothing that I would rather do than this. This is my passion. I feel this is what I'm here for.
Yeah. Well, clearly, there's some, I don't know if it's cosmic or if it's just being in that thin air high above, but a lot of wonderful things have conspired to put you on this particular mission. Our guest today, again, we're doing 2 parts. The second of those will come up next week, and we'll talk more with Clay about that, a specific mission that is coming up very similar to this, yet with its own unique challenges and interests. I want to take a short break. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit about MIA Recoveries and what that is if folks want to donate, if you need other kinds of resources or assistance, if people in our listening audience in some way or another can get on board with you to help further your adventures and what you're doing, the mission, I'd like to kind of share that. So let's go ahead, take another short break. Again, extraordinary stories today. Clayton Kuhles, MIARecoveries.org. You can take a look at the website as we break, and we'll be back to Countywide right after this.
Life changes, then it changes again. Predicting the unexpected in life is impossible. That's why it's called unexpected. So when it comes to financial goals, our philosophy is don't predict, prepare. Hi, I'm Edward Jones financial advisor Matthias Sandoval. A job loss, change in health, or a loss of a loved one can have a big impact on your family's financial security. Let's work together to help make sure you're equipped for life's unexpected events. Call our office to schedule a face-to-face appointment.
Edward Jones, making sense of investing. Member SIPC.
Verde Solaire, your hometown heating, air conditioning, and plumbing company in the Verde Valley, and your trusted North Central Arizona Goodman dealer. Goodman is a name you can trust with the revolutionary Comfort Bridge technology factory installed into select Goodman gas furnaces and air handlers to ensure the entire system operates at peak energy efficient performance. Verde Solaire offers free in-home estimates, locally owned and operated since 1983. Visit them at verdesolaire.com. Better, cleaner, faster.
Hi, this is Lewis Rice with Rice Accounting, Jackson Hewitt Tax Service, with a very sincere thank you for your continued business over the last 20 years. All of us at Jackson Hewitt Tax Service are very honored for the many community awards we've been given over the years. As always, we are open year-round, providing services for taxes, payroll, and bookkeeping. Jackson Hewitt Tax Service, located throughout northern Arizona, can help you with all your tax and accounting needs. For our nearest location, call 800-234-1040.
Let's talk. That's the message from Jonna Randall Murdoch, your local Farm Bureau agent, providing a personal touch when making insurance and financial decisions. Jonna will simplify your insurance needs while offering competitive pricing. Let's talk auto, home, life, and farm. Call Jonna at Farm Bureau today at 928-649-8686. Your Cottonwood Farm Bureau property and casualty insurance company. At Farm Bureau, they insure more than just farms.
We welcome you back to the program. It is Countywide, and Clayton Kuhles, our guest today, MIARecoveries.org. If you want to look at the website, it's terrific, comprehensive. You'll find a lot of information there, plenty of video and some interviews. You've done a lot of media since all this began. Let me point out for our listeners, when this all started, that accidental finding as you were climbing in the Himalayas, your passion, mountain climbing, clearly that came out of your pocket, and many of the follow-up expeditions that you've taken have done so as well. This cannot be inexpensive. Simply the travel boggles my mind financially, but the climbing, the gear, all of the people that you need to come across. Do you accept donations? Are there resources folks might contribute to help this cause?
Yes, absolutely. On the funding page of my website, miarecoveries.org, it gives the option to make a donation with any type of credit card, any of the major credit cards, or through PayPal, or you could just simply mail a check payable to MI Recoveries, Inc. MI Recoveries, Inc. is a registered and approved 501c3 nonprofit public charity, and that means that any donations are fully tax deductible for the donor. The expeditions since the first one in 2002 have traditionally been 100% funded by myself. I receive a few donations during the year. There's only been 2 expeditions where I received significant outside funding, and that was from family members who wanted me to accomplish a specific recovery for them.
Kind of commissioning in a way.
That's correct, and that was because they could not get the government to send a team in.
Yeah.
These wrecks are in a politically unstable area along the border of India and Burma. That's where most of the wrecks are at. And this area is used as a safe harbor for a multitude of armed insurgent organizations. Some are Maoist organizations from northeastern India fighting for independence, and other organizations are tribal groups out of northern Burma. But they harbor in this area because it's so remote, there are no police or military outposts, and they feel safe there. But the U.S. government is uncomfortable with sending either DOD teams or civilian contractors.
Even if it was a search and recovery, which it would be,
right.
You're just asking for trouble if you send in military personnel.
They're concerned about a hostage situation developing, and rightly so.
Aren't you worried about that?
No, I'm not. And I've interacted with all these tribal groups and insurgent organizations, and because it's just me, the only Westerner interacting with these groups, they don't see me as a threat. They probably think I'm nuts. They probably think I'm crazy. You know, what lone Westerner who doesn't even speak the language would venture in there, weeks and weeks from the nearest road or village.
Repeatedly, yeah.
So they're probably curious about me, and they probably look at me like a nut. But no, I don't feel threatened at all.
A nut who is trying to bring some lifelong closure to his countrymen, and we salute your effort for that. Again, we're going to do a second part with Clayton, a complete program, and we're going to talk about one of these, I don't know if commission is the right word, but you have talked with a specific family from Arizona, and on their behalf, on their behest, you're going to be traveling again back to this region coming up late this year and trying to recover the remains of someone from their family.
Yes, that's correct. And it was a B-24 that crashed on the hump.
Well, let me wrap it up here because we're straight out of time. You are not afraid to talk, and we are so pleased that you're here to share your story with us today on Countywide, and again next week as we continue. We're going to hear this compelling story. Clayton Kuhles, MIARecoveries.org. Take a look at the website and meet us a week from now when we play part 2 with Clayton Kuhles here on Countywide.
This has been Countywide. Listen in each Tuesday and Thursday at this time. If you have a topic or guest idea that you'd like to suggest, email us, news@myradioplace.com.